Hey guys, welcome back to our Ezra Nehemiah devotional. We find ourselves in Nehemiah chapter 12 this week, week 22 in total of this series, and the second to last chapter in Ezra Nehemiah. So this week we're going to look at, and we do see the completion of the wall. Again, Nehemiah was this person sent to build a wall around the temple to protect it, and now we see its completion and dedication. So the Israelites completed the building of the temple. They're back in their land. We saw covenant renewal happening in previous chapters, and now this week we're going to see the completion of the wall and the dedication of that wall, and a worship celebration breakout in response to it. One particular verse that we're going to focus on this week is verse 43, which says, "And they offered great sacrifices that day and rejoiced. For God had made them rejoice with great joy. The women and children also rejoiced, and the joy of Jerusalem was heard far away." So as we reflect on that, as we reflect the great joy that the Israelites, the people of God, are experiencing as they do the will of God, as they do what it is that God had called them to do, that he had told them to do, we see a great joy break out among the people. And not only that, but we also see joy a joy that is heard from far away, that even people from afar could hear rejoicing in the land. And so as we reflect on that, as we think about the great vivid joy that these people who were once in exile now brought back to the land that God had ordained for them to be in under the old covenant, and now we're there in that land, and we're celebrating, rejoicing that they were finally back home. I want you to think to yourself and ask yourself, what are the things that bring you joy? What are the things that bring you joy? And in fact, particularly, what particularly brings you more joy than anything else? I was reading a book recently that was talking about, kind of was referencing a couple different studies and talking about happiness in America, and that in the last decade, the wealth of this nation, the United States that we live in, has grown dramatically, and that we are wealthier than we've ever been as a country as a whole. But even though that is the case, we in the United States actually have dropped more than any other country on the face of the planet in the last decade in terms of general happiness, that we actually are far unhappier than we've ever been. And in fact, that our happiness decreased in the last 10 years more so than any other nation on the face of the earth. So what is it that brings you joy? And if there is something that comes to mind that really does bring you joy, what is that thing? Is it Christ, or is it something that is futile? See, what I mean by that is that, that those studies, I think, in large part reflect that we often tell ourselves that joy is something that comes with accomplishment, with getting a better job, with making more money, with having a spouse or having a family or whatever, that joy, when we get those things, that we will get joy, that we'll be happy. But in fact, the opposite actually has seemed to occur in our world and in our nation in particular. That even though we have achieved great wealth, even though we have achieved a lot of the things that we sought out to achieve, that actually it has left us more and more frustrated and despondent and angry than we were before. We are miserable in a lot of ways. And so as we reflect on that, reflect on the things that what are the things that bring you joy, and truly, how happy would you be? Like if it's something that you're after, something, I'll be happy when I get this job one day, or I get joy pursuing this particular thing. Well, when you do, or if you do achieve and get that thing, will it truly deliver in the way that you expect it to? And I think the Bible teaches us that unless that thing is Christ, it won't deliver. If it's a job, it's not going to deliver. If it's a marriage, it's not going to deliver in the way that you want it to. If it's a particular school that you're trying to get into, that will not deliver the joy that you are expecting it to do so. It's not going to do it. Because the only thing that truly delivers, that truly brings us eternal joy, that is everlasting, that could never be taken away from us, is Christ. And that's it. And again, in verse 43, there's this rejoicing, this celebration that they're rejoicing in the fact that they are doing what it is that God had called them to do, that they're actually finding joy in obeying the commands of God. We got to kind of see that a little bit in our Psalm 119 series, and we see that at work here, that as we walk in obedience and faithfulness to God, that we actually have great joy as we do so. And so what are the things in your life that give you joy? And for the people around you in your life that don't know Christ, if they were just to look at you and conclude what is the thing that brings you the most joy, would they conclude it's Jesus Christ and his gospel, or would they say that it's something else? See, the hope and what we're after is that the thing that gives us great joy, one is that we would be filled with great joy, but the thing that gives us great joy is the joy of the gospel, a joy that surpasses even circumstance. See, if your joy is from a particular video game, you won't have that joy if your game system crashes or your computer crashes on you. If that joy is from a marriage, if your spouse dies, or if your spouse frustrates you even, that joy is not going to be there anymore. But with Christ, that joy is there forever, and it surpasses even the most miserable circumstances that we may find ourselves in. So what is it that gives you joy? And if it's not Christ, then the call for you from this passage is to set your eyes upon him, to look to him in his word, to pray to him, that he would give you the joy that can be only found in him, that joy that surpasses everything in this world, that is not dependent upon circumstance, but is dependent on the definitive work of Jesus Christ. I pray that you would have that joy today, that you would know that joy, and that you would relay that joy to those around you. Thanks, guys.